Hello and welcome back to the channel. You catch me as I start to colour in along the back on the 32mm track rather than the 4-foot track, which I've been focusing on the last 2 or 3 videos. Along the back here, of course, we have the embankment. And the embankment, as you can see, is grey and it's unpainted. Now the paint I'm using is watercolour. I use watercolour extensively on my modelling watercolour. This is a Reeves, this is white, Chinese white, zinc, which I use quite a lot of. I also use a lot of burnt umber, this one for instance, and black, which is, in this instance, is ivory black. They all mix together. And watercolour, of course, is what it says. It's mixed with water. And the water, when used in conjunction with the landscape on here, with the building decorative plaster, the moisture is taken in. Now you see this piece of wet area here. It won't be long before that is soaked in and becomes matte like this. Now the beauty of watercolour is you can actually weaken the colour or the depth of colour with water, and I'll show you what I mean by that. It'll go very, very wet to start with, obviously, because I'm using water. Very clever, Mr. Hill, very clever. But with plenty of water, you can soften. It doesn't look like it is at the moment, but the water will soften the colour. It's gone very dark, as you can see at the moment. But believe me, it will go very light when it's dry. Now the beauty, as I said, is using watercolour is the fact that you can blend the colours together. You can float them in, literally float the colours in. And if you see down here, if I bring the camera down there, you see that green along there, which is part of the slabbing. Well, that can be altered, can be made lighter, can be made darker. But it's the start of making the thing look rather natural, or the layout look rather more natural, rather than just painted with green. You can just wash the colours quite simply with a brush. Take the colours out, darken them down with a bit more paint, and you can actually move the colours around. Now the reason I use, and you may ask this, in fact I have been asked this, why do you make your landscapes grey? Well, obviously in this case it's in a slate area, so the ground, or the chalk, chalk, what am I talking about? The ground is slate coloured mostly. Okay, you've got the brown from the soil, but if you see here, see this white board, and up here, you see how stark that looks, and you can see there where I've taken the decorative plaster off and caught this foam board underneath. It's showing white. Your eye immediately goes to that. And if you don't have that, well, okay, if it gets chipped, let's say if this gets chipped or cracks, it won't show white like it will show there. That's showing white. You won't see it. It will just about see it. You can see it there, but it's a dark crack. If that was white plaster, decorative plaster, that would show a white line along there. Anyway, the idea is that with watercolour, it will soak into the plaster and become more of a natural look. There are a lot of people who use acrylics. I don't like using acrylics. I find them too harsh, although, again, it's down to experience, I suppose. Most of my modelling, landscape-wise, has been done with watercolours because, as I said earlier, I feel I can mould the colours and melt the colours together so you have no real harsh edges. Now I notice in the lens of the camera, or in this case the phone, we have a dark line through there. Well, that dark line is actually black and burnt umber mixed together. The idea of that is basically an oily line where the locos have come along and dropped a lot of steam with oil in. But I find that's probably too harsh. So I should let it down a little bit. I'm using a large, well, not large, not that large, but it's large in, it's a number 1 or 1 inch in artist terms. And it's used to laying on a wash when you're doing a watercolour picture. And you lay a wash on for the sky and wash it down and so on. And it's the same thing really applies with here. Now you see how that's coming out. That's been taken out, that dark line. It shows up more in this light. What I will do, I'll use a hairdryer. So again, it'll be a bit noisy and you'll see it'll lighten up when I blow dry it, as it were. See how that's got very light there, now it's taking the moisture out. And that will start to go lighter now. There we go. Now that's a lighter colour now, much lighter than when we started the video, particularly this area here. And the beauty of that is, of course, then you can build up depth of colour as you wish. I mean, it may be that you want to put perhaps a drum or something there, an oil drum, and that's leaked, or a rusty old wagon wheel, or wagon wheel, that sounds like something you eat. Wagon or a slate wagon wheel or something like that laid down alongside it. Now I'm going to try and take that white out of there. There we go. Along there. I'm going to use a smaller brush. This one's great for doing larger areas. Now my trusty palette. I've had this, as you can see, for many years. And I've done a lot of landscape work with this particular palette. The beauty of it is I can hold it like so and take my paintbrush and go into this, going for a green here. I'll tell you what that green is in a minute. I'll look it up. I can't remember what I know. This one's emerald, but this one I think is I can't remember now. I'll come back on that.
That green is leaf green.
What I'm going to do now is going to put a little bit of green here, and you'll see how you get a line there. Well, that line will now be softened with water, so it's not quite so harsh. What I'm doing really is painting a picture in 3D. Now you see how green that looks under the glare of the camera lens. And of course, this instance is an iPhone 11 Pro, which I'm using for all my videos. I can't quite afford a 14 Pro yet, but I'm working on it. Management has decreed that they're too expensive. Kind of agree with her, really. They are a bit expensive, or a bit too expensive for my needs. But the Pro does a fairly good job, or does a very good job. Now a little bit of brown on there. Now you see how that's darkened up since I put a bit of water on it. Now that will dry back again with the hairdryer. So please excuse the noise of the hairdryer. I'm doing this so that it's quick and quick for you guys to see the results rather than have to wait for hours for it to dry. That's the reason I'm using the hairdryer here. I mean, I don't normally use one because I can go away and do something else and come back to it, whereas on a video it's a bit difficult. Now you see how that's lightened up. In actual fact, it's showing lighter on the camera than it is actually under my own eye. But this area here is lightened up, but it doesn't actually look as light as it's showing on the camera here. So there we are. That's how I colour and start the basis of colouring, remembering of course that if it was white underneath there, it'll be a lot different. It'll be a lot more work. Hence, as I said earlier, the grey mix. Actually, you can see, yes, you can see it along here. There's a crack all along here. It's not too detrimental. But as I said, it doesn't show white. Therefore, it's not that much of a problem. Okay, that's it for now. I'll come back when I have more to show you.